Hey everyone, my name is Summer Fiut and we're going to be teaching 5th grade today. Our objective from the Alabama course of study is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals to the hundredths place using concrete models or drawings and strategies based on place value, properties of operation, and or the relationship between addition and subtraction, relating the strategy to a written method, and explaining the reason used. So we're going to be focusing on operations with decimals. We're going to be using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And I'm going to be walking us through it step by step with each one. All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, let's start on our example with addition with decimals. So here we have 12.4 plus 3.98. Okay, I want y'all to notice something. Right here, we have a problem with the decimal being in the tenths place. And right here, we have a decimal with the hundredths place. So when we stack these on top of each other, 12.4 plus 3.98. See right here, I have my decimal lined up. My whole number lines up with that whole number in front of the decimal, just like that. And then just because this right here is empty and it looks very unorganized, it looks a little messy. So what I want us all to do, and what I personally like to do to make it more organized and nice and neat, is to put a 0 here to take up that space. It just looks better and it will not change the value of our numbers. So I'll put a little 0 here. And now we're just going to add and make sure we put that decimal straight down. So 0 plus 8 is 8. 4 plus 9, 9. 10, 11, 12, 13. Carry our 1. Bring down that decimal. 3 plus 2 is 5. Plus 1 more, can't forget that 1, is 6. Okay, and then we bring down this 1. Our answer is 16.38. And our decimal is in the hundredths place. Okay, on to subtracting with decimals. So we have 36.9 here minus 4.85. I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal point here so I can make sure that I line up the 4 in front of the decimal and the 8 behind the decimal up correctly. Now here, it's a bit different from our addition problem because here there would be a 0, right? But is this going to change our value to our problem? With subtraction, it does. With addition, it will not, because we're just adding the numbers. But subtraction, can we take 5 from 0? We don't have any numbers, so can we take 5 away? No, we can't. So this 0 is going to change that value right there, and it's going to be turned into a 10 because we are taking 1 from the 9. We're going to turn that to an 8. So that's how we get that 10 right there now, and that changes to an 8. So now can we take 5 from 10? Yes. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 8 minus 8 is 0. We are going to bring that decimal point right down. Can we do 6 minus 4? Yes, because 6 is a bigger number. So 6 minus 4 is 2. And then the 3, there's no number, so we're going to bring that 3 straight down. And our answer is 32.05. And this is in the hundredths place. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to multiplication. We have 5.2 times 4.5. So unlike adding and subtracting, we're not even going to worry about the decimals right now. So we're going to write 52 times 45. Okay. We're going to multiply these like regular whole numbers. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. Okay? And then 5 times 5 is 25, plus that 1 is 26. Okay? Now we're going to do 4, because now we're going into the tens place. And we have to remember, we cannot forget this. This is very important. Just like when we normally multiply, we have to put that 0 in the ones place right there so that we make sure our tens place is lined up correctly. So 4 times 2 is 8. And now that is in the tens place like we need it. 4 times 5 is 20. So we will bring that straight down. All right, and now like when we always multiply, we are gonna add those numbers. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 8 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Carry the 1, 2, 3, and bring down the 2. All right, are we done? Did we forget about something? So it's so important that we do not forget this. The decimal point, okay? We now are gonna worry about that decimal point, but we can't forget it, even though we're gonna do it at the end. So what we do is we look at our original numbers. In 5.2, how many numbers do we have behind the decimal point? We have 1 digit behind the decimal point in 5.2. What about 4.5, our other number? We have only 1 digit behind the decimal point. So we do 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1, and that's going to equal 2. Okay? So that tells us that we're going to move our decimal 2 places from the back. 1, 2. Right here. And that is where we're going to put our wonderful decimal point. Okay, so our number is 23.40. If we didn't put that decimal point there, it would be completely wrong and it would be a whole different number. So it's very important that we remember that. Now we're going to move on to our next example with multiplication. Okay, now on our second example, I'm going to do something a little different. So y'all will know if you come across this, what to do. So at first, in the first example, we had a decimal times a decimal. Right here, we have a whole number times a decimal. So like before, we are not going to start out worrying about this decimal. We're just going to forget it for a second and make sure we add it at the end by looking at how many digits are behind that decimal point. Okay, so we're going to do 2, 4, 5, and we're going to multiply it by 6. Okay, now 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, 6 times 4 is 24, 25, 26, 27. We added that 3. Okay, and we carry the 2. 6 times 2 is 12. We add that 2 more, 13, 14. Okay, there's our number. But now we have to make sure we add the decimal point. Very important. So we go back at the top to look at our numbers. Now, is this a decimal or a whole number? It's a whole number. So is there a decimal? No, there is no decimal here. So we have 0. And here we do have a decimal, and we have how many digits behind the decimal point? 2. So 0 plus 2 is 2. That tells us how many places to move our decimal point from the back. 1, 2. Okay? And that will go right there, and that makes our answer 14.70. Okay? All right, now we're going to move on to dividing our operations with decimals. Okay guys, before we get started with our first example problem of dividing a decimal, I'm going to go over something real quick. We're not going to work this problem out. I just want you to know what it looks like. So if we have a whole number divided by a decimal with a whole number, that's going to tell us to bring that decimal straight up. We don't do anything else with it. We don't move over here, move over here. We just know, because that's a whole number already, that we just bring that decimal straight up. Okay, and we're done with the decimal. Now we're going to move on. Okay, now we're moving on to our problem with a decimal divided by a decimal. We got 13.76 divided by 3.2. I already have it written out. Okay, so now that it's not a whole number, and since it's a decimal, that means we have to make it a whole number. We move our decimal over only one place it takes to get to that whole number. So I'm going to rewrite it 32 and 13.7.6 because we moved that over. Okay. All right. Now 32 will go into 137. Okay. 4 times. Okay. 4 times 32 is 128. We're going to subtract and get 9, and then we're going to bring down that 6. Okay. 32 will go into 96 3 times. Okay, see this decimal right here? We need to move it straight up. Now that we've made that a whole number, that decimal can go straight up now. Okay, so 96, 3 times 32 is 96. So 96 minus 96 is 0 like we need it. And our answer is 4.3 tenths. Okay, so after we complete the 4 types of operations with decimals, I would ask the students a few questions. I would ask them what was the hardest part, which operation was the most difficult for them, and then I would ask them which one they think that we maybe should go over a little bit more, and then work on that. And then also I'd ask them how they think that they would use this in everyday life or in the future, and then I would explain to them why. Now that we've completed all those, I just want to explain to you why we're doing this. So this is very important for your future, whether you have a job or you're just buying and purchasing things from a store or somebody else, or if you just want to know how much money you have, or having to do with the bank. So this is very important with using money, and we're actually going to move on into our lesson later on with decimals and money. I also have a activity for you to take home. We didn't have enough time today in class, but I have a decimal dice game where you roll the dice and you put it in the spots and figure out your answer doing multiplication, subtraction, division, and adding. And we'll go over it more tomorrow. Thank you guys. You'll have a good day.